All right, folks, good afternoon. My name is Judge Law, and we are going to begin with the expedited accusation calendar. This is with the State Court of Fulton County. This particular calendar addresses cases in which individuals were recently arrested and brought to the Fulton County Jail. As soon as they were booked in, the prosecutor, who is the Solicitor General of Fulton County, has formally accused the defendants of one or more misdemeanor offenses. When you hear your name called, I will give you your new accusation number, address the charges that have been brought against you, let you know who's going to be your appointed counsel. All right, Mr. Biltu Ray, could you please be seated? Not moving around is very distracting. You need to be seated, not walking around. Please stop his video. If the host could please stop his video. Thank you. As I was saying, when your case is called, I will let you know what your accusation number is, who's your appointed counsel, what are the charges brought against you, and if relevant, give you a new court date. For most of you also, a bond will be issued if one has not been previously set. If you are charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, please remember the following rights. The first one is the right to remain silent. Anything that you choose to say in open court, especially during this virtual proceeding, which is not only being recorded but live streamed, your statements can and will be used against you. So please do not say anything without the advice of an attorney. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. Now, some of you may be appointed with conflict counsel. I don't know if one is available at the present time, but if one is not available, the clerk's office will have one appointed to represent you for future court proceedings. I'm trying to figure out who my litigation manager is. Miss Grace? Oh,
yes, ma'am.
What's our next court date, please?
9/14.
Thank you. All right, who do we have in courtroom 2, please?
Our first person is position number 9, Ms. McNeil.
Okay, thank you. This is State versus Neve, middle initial L, last name McNeil. Are you Ms. McNeil?
Yes.
All right. Ms. McNeil, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Trejo. Is that correct, sir?
It's me, Your Honor.
Ms. Thomas? Okay.
It's the first arrest. She needs a cosigner.
All right. Thank you.
The mother is here at the jail.
Okay, that's even better. If we can have the mother's first and last name, that would be also very helpful with the correct spelling. Ms. McNeil is accused of criminal trespass, causing damage to property, and simple battery domestic violence. And Mr. Walker, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
And what is the state's recommendation?
Well, we have reached out to the victim in this case. We're unable to reach her mother, but if her mother is okay with her returning home, the state is fine with converting the surety bonds to signature bonds through pretrial services and no further violent contact with Ms. Christina Johnson. But of course, we would want her mother to communicate that to the court if she's okay with that or not.
All right. Deputy, is it possible to bring Ms. Johnson forward to the screen? Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Johnson. My name is Judge Law. If you would like to add any information to this proceeding, may I place you under oath?
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Can you hear me all right?
I can.
This is an altercation that involved you and your daughter, Ms. McNeil?
Yes.
And presently the prosecutor wants to recommend a surety bond, a bond in which Ms. McNeil would have to either pay for or obtain someone to release her from jail upon payment of the bond.
Your Honor, I said
really,
signature bond. I'm sorry.
oh, was the original recommendation a signature bond as well?
Well, she has a preset bond amount of $20,000, I believe, $10,000 on each charge. But if the mother is okay with returning home, I'm okay with it being through pretrial services.
Okay, well, let's hear from Ms. Johnson. Ms. Johnson, are you comfortable with Nevaeh McNeil being in the same household with you?
Yeah,
And you do not fear her?
no,
And you are not concerned there may be any future altercations?
no.
All right, thank
Hang
you.
on. Can I ask Ms. Johnson just one question?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Johnson, is your daughter attending school currently? I understand that she's only 17, I believe.
Yes, she did.
Okay, Your Honor, I would just ask that no weapons, drugs, or alcohol to remain in school.
Okay,
And along with the no further violent contact.
all right. Ms. Johnson, you will have to co-sign the bond, which means that you would need your driver's license or any kind of government issue ID available for pretrial services to co-sign the bond. And then she would need to comply with certain strict conditions. Are you willing to be a co-signer?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You may return to the gallery, please. Mr. Howard, I'll wait.
Oh,
for
what's
you
the
to-
name? What's the name?
I believe it's Christina Johnson.
Christine Johnson. I'll send you the waiver.
Thank you. All right, Ms. McNeil, it appears that your mother is willing to let you back into the household. Your bond on the criminal trespass matter is going to be $5,000. On the simple battery is going to be $5,000. It's going to be a $10,000 signature bond through pretrial services. That means today you and your mother do not have to pay your bond. We just require your signature and your mother's signature. And then you will have to comply with the conditions of the bond. If you violate any of the conditions of the bond, you will be back in jail and your signature bond will be converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond, which means you would have to pay anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500 to be released. Do you understand?
Yes.
Conditions to your bond is, first of all, no further violent contact with Christina Johnson. You may return to the same household as Ms. Johnson, but you cannot have any physical or verbal altercation with her. You are to return to school and continue with your studies and have full attendance at school. Which school do you go to?
North Atlanta High School.
All right. You are subject to a curfew. You are to be home by 6 p.m. and you cannot leave the home until 7 a.m. It's a 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew, Monday through Friday. And then you are on a 24-hour curfew Saturday and Sunday. The only time you can step out of the home is in order to attend court, to go speak to your attorney, to attend church, seek medical services, and of course to attend school. Do you understand?
Yes.
No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. And your next court date will be sent to your current address. So if you change your address, make sure that you update that with the court services. Thank you.
So the mother will have to go around the corner to the pretrial trailer to co-sign.
Judge Law, excuse me, this officer, her mother said she does have a job, part-time job.
What's the part-time job?
Urban Wing.
I'm sorry?
Urban Wing.
All right, then the other exception to your curfew is to go to work. All right? Do you understand?
Yes.
Thank you.
Position 6 and 7, Mr. Hardwick, Lorenzo.
6 and 7, all right? All right, this is Lorenzo Hardwick, case number 23 CR 5320J, accused of battery, family violence from September 22nd, 2022. Mr. Hardwick's second case is 23 CR 5321J, accused of criminal trespass from July 22nd, 2023. Mr. Hardwick, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Thomas.
Yes, ma'am.
Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
7 total. Last was 2016 for theft, cocaine possession of a knife or a firearm during a commission. 2013 battery, 2010 disorderly conduct, simple battery conviction. He was recommended.
All right, thank you. Mr. Walker, or yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to 311 Scott Street. They spoke with the victim, whose name is Angel Dennis. She advised that her and the defendant share a child together. They got into an argument over childcare. At that time, he did punch her in her face several times. The arresting officer, or I'm sorry, the responding officer did observe a laceration and swelling to the victim's face. There is not a bond set in this matter. Currently, the state is asking for a $3,000 surety. No further contact with the victim, Angel Dennis, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. And I will call to the court's attention, I believe that this incident occurred last year.
Yes, it did. Mhm.
Okay, and then that brings us to position 7, where law enforcement was yet again responding to the same incident location, which the same victim, Ms. Dennis, reported to officers that the defendant broke the lock to her door, damaged her front door. There is not a bond set in this matter. We are asking for a $1,500 surety, no contact with Ms. Dennis, and to stay away from the incident location, along with no weapons, drugs, or alcohol. I do believe I saw Ms. Dennis on the line at some point in time. I'm not sure if she's still here, but I would ask the court to sound for her.
All right. Miss Angel Dennis, yes, there you are. Would you like to contribute to the proceedings?
Yeah.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Do you know Lorenzo Hardrick?
Yes.
And do you share a child or children with him?
Yes.
And you have heard about the 2 charges and the 2 cases brought against him. Are you comfortable that if he's anywhere near you?
You say, am I comfortable?
Are you comfortable with him being near you or in your same house?
Oh, yeah.
And why is
Yeah.
that?
Well, we have kids together.
Other than that, why would you be comfortable with him?
Well, it was just an argument, Mommy. I didn't mean for him to get locked up. I didn't ask for a warrant to be took out. They did it on their own.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that response. Could you repeat?
Because I didn't ask for that warrant to be took out. I just made the report for my door can be fixed. I didn't ask for a warrant to be took out for him to get arrested. And it was just an argument.
And what about the incident in 2022?
Yeah, that was the argument.
I'm sorry, Ms. Dennis, there are 2 cases against Mr. Hardrick. One is from July of 2020. One is from, excuse me, I'm gonna get the date correct. One is from September 2022, in which he is alleged to have committed the crime of battery, family violence, in which you are the alleged victim. And then the second case is regarding the damage to the door about a year later on July 22nd, involving you as well.
Yes, like I said, I made a report. I made the second report so my dog could get fed.
All right, I'm curious about the first report.
Okay, the first report, it was just a small accident that happened.
I'm sorry?
It was just an accident that happened.
What was the accident?
We got into an argument because he had picked up my daughter from school.
I'm
and
sorry.
I wasn't at home. We got into an argument because he picked up my daughter from school and I wasn't at home. And I guess he was mad. And we got into an argument and I called the police so he can leave.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Walker, did you have any questions to ask of Ms. Dennis?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right, and any amendment to your bond?
No, the state stands by its original recommendation. They have 2 cases involving each other where she's the victim in both. And I would note that the officer did observe the injury to Ms. Dennis's face in the first case.
All right, thank you. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Harwood, let me back up. Mr. Harwood does qualify for our services. I just want to put that on the record. So we will be representing him going forward. Mr. Harwood is 34 years of age. He's a lifelong Georgia resident with strong community ties. All of his family resides here. He's also a proud father of 5 children of ages 16, 11. I believe the youngest 3, 10, 6, and 1. He shares with Ms. Dennis. Mr. Harwick is self-employed. He did express to me he just began his own clothing business, but his finances are strained at this time. He did also express to me that he and Ms. Dennis were currently still in a relationship and still taking family trips. He did express that he would like for them to remain in contact. I am asking for no further violent contact between the two, and if the court is not inclined, that he be allowed third-party contact with his children. They do not reside together, Your Honor, so stay away should not be an issue at this time. As far as bond for both cases, I am asking for a signature bond. Believe Mr. Harwick was recommended, and also because that his finances are strained at this time. And if the court is not inclined to bond no more than $1,500 for both.
Okay, thank you. On the battery family violence, position number 6, that's going to be a $3,500 signature bond through pretrial services. On the criminal trespass causing damage to property, that's going to be a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial services. The total bond is going to be a $6,000 signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Hardrick can go ahead and sign up for the bond. He is to have no further contact with Angela Dennis. He is to stay away from 311 Scott Street, Southwest, Unit 83 in Atlanta, Georgia. Since he doesn't live there, then there's no reason for him to have a one-time visit. There shall be third-party transfer of the child or children that he shares with Ms. Dennis, which means that a third party would have to facilitate Mr. Hardrick's ability to visit or have joint visitation with the child or children that he shares. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. Mr. Hardrick is also to report to pretrial once a month in person until further order of the court. Within 60 days of being released on this bond, he has to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program at his expense, and he will begin these classes within 60 days from today. Failure to show proof that he has enrolled in such a program and begun classes will result in a revocation of his bond and an amendment to a cash or surety bond. His next court date will be sent to his current address, and I have a Meadow something address. Is that his current address?
Yes, Your Honor. Meadowcrest Way.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Position 1.
No.
This is State versus Shamonte Akins, 23 CR 5315D. Mr. Akins, you have been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Thomas. The state has accused you of the 5 following misdemeanor offenses: criminal trespass, simple battery, hindering a person from making an emergency phone call, and 2 counts of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. This stems from a September 1st, 2023 incident. Mr. Howard?
4 total. Last arrest was in May. Given false name, possession of a Schedule 2. It's 23 CP 218594. Got a probation for armed robbery, 14 SC 130206. 2015, they gave him 7 years to serve, 3 years probation for that. Got a probation in state court. Criminal trespass, damage to property, 23 CR 003 826D. He just got put on probation for that in June.
Okay.
That's it.
Mr. Howard? Oh,
Yes.
excuse me, Mr. Walker. Sorry.
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to the S&S Meats and Grocery Store located at 1177 Lee Street. Upon arrival, they spoke with the victim, Mr. Ray Biltu, who advised that he saw the defendant approaching the store. He is familiar with the defendant because the defendant has been criminally trespassed from that location before, has also shoplifted from that store. At that time, Mr. Biltu did lock the front door to the store. Mr. Akins pulled the door open, breaking the lock. At that time, Mr. Biltu attempted to call 911. Mr. Akins then slapped Mr. Biltu and hung up the phone call. Eventually, law enforcement did arrive and Mr. Akins did resist arrest. There currently is a $1,500 surety bond on each count for a total of a $7,500 surety bond. We are asking that that amount remain intact and for a stay away from the incident location and no contact with the victim, Mr. Ray Biltu. He is on the line. We have had contact with him. He is fearful and concerned for his safety. We would ask that the court sound for him and allow him to address the court if he would like to do so at this time.
All right, Mr. Ray Biltu, I believe that was the gentleman who was walking around. If you'd like to start your video and unmute. All right, Ms. Thomas? Okay, here he is. Mr. Biltu, if you'd like to make any comments, you need to unmute. All right, can you?
Yeah.
Mr. Biltu, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, your audio is not coming through. You would need to correct your audio on your device.
I hear you.
Okay, would you like to say something about this case?
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Biltu, would you like to say something about this case?
1 second.
All right, while Mr. Biltu is correcting his audio issue.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, did you have something to add to this case?
Person is continuously, randomly.
Please raise your right hand.
Oh,
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge? All right, Ms. Thomas, we're having some audio issues with Mr. Biltu.
yeah, I get it now. I'm fine with it now.
Okay, and what would you like to tell me about this case involving Mr. Akins?
Ma'am, actually, not only one day, it's continuously, he's like no fearless. He come every day and harassing customer and stealing from the store, never pay. And then
I'm gonna have to object. Can we stick to the allegations of this case and not any other
We'll ask that the-
unused, unreported?
I'll ask
Objection
that the victim
overruled.
is not-
Objections overruled. All right, Mr. Biltu, so you see him almost every day, and what do you want today?
today I would like to, I respect the judge, I respect the judicial. So whatever the punishment, whatever he did, everything is a footage, everything on the videos. So I would like to, humbly request to the judicial, whatever take decision, I'm really, acceptable.
All right, that doesn't really answer my question, but all right, Ms. Thomas, what would you like to recommend?
And I sorry for interfere. And I would like to say, I don't want to be in my property and that person anymore, please.
Okay.
Your Honor, can I just ask one brief question?
All right, briefly.
Mr. Ray, are you concerned for your safety?
Yes, sir. I'm very, and I have two children, one son, one daughter, which is on 12 and 9 years old, and single family, surviving the store with this. So I like to, help my safety is first.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Akins is strongly denying these allegations. We are not opposed to a stay away and no further contact with Mr. Biltu. Mr. Akins is 23 years of age. He has strong community ties. He has been a Georgia resident all of his life. His family also resides in Georgia. He's a father of a 7-month-old baby. He currently resides with his family. Mr. Akins did complete his GED. However, Mr. Akins is currently unemployed. He does suffer from some MH. Your Honor, we would be asking for a bond amount for each count, a bond no more than 500. Mr. Akins does not have the financial means to make any bond amounts. However, if the court is not inclined on granting a signature bond, we obviously will be asking for a $500 amount for each offense.
All right. On the criminal trespass is 1,000. The remaining charges are 500. That's a $3,000 surety bond. No further contact with Mr. Biltu Ray or any of the employees at the SNS meat store. He's to stay 200 yards away from 1177 Lee Street, Atlanta, Georgia, which means he has to stay 200 yards away from the S&S meat store. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. And I'm not sure what's happening with this probation matter, but I don't know if probation's online, but if they're planning to revoke his probation, it would be best if both cases are set for the September 14th calendar. That will be his next court date. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ray. You're free to go.
Thank you.
Position 12.
It's a state versus Camilo Rodriguez. All right, Ms. Chauncey, are you here to
Good afternoon.
interpret?
Yes, Your
All
Honor.
right, thank you. Ms. Chauncey, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Thank you. All right, this is State versus Camilo Rodriguez, charged with theft by taking.
Este es la fiscalía en contra de Camilo Rodríguez con un cargo de robo.
Her case number is 23 CR 5326E.
Y el número de caso es 23 CR 005326E.
The alleged incident occurred on September 1st of this year in Fulton County, Georgia.
Y el alegado incidente ocurrió el 1 de septiembre de este año en el condado de Fulton.
Ms. Rodriguez, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you state about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you.
Señor Rodríguez, usted tiene el derecho a guardar silencio. Todo lo que diga relacionado a este caso puede y será usado en su contra.
You have a right to an attorney, and your appointed counsel this afternoon is Mr. Javier Trejo.
Usted tiene el derecho a ser representado por un abogado y esta tarde a usted lo está representando el licenciado Trejo.
Mr. Howard, does she have any prior convictions?
¿Tiene algunos antecedentes penales, señor Howard?
Convictions, no, but arrest, yes. She got a hold out tomorrow.
Ninguna sentencia, pero sí arrestos.
She got a hold out tomorrow, FTA warrant.
¿Tiene una detención de morro por falta de comparecencia?
Is that a traffic matter?
I'm not sure.
¿Es por tránsito? No estoy seguro.
Mr. Pellon, good afternoon.
Buenas tardes, señor
Afternoon,
Pelón.
Judge.
Buenas tardes.
And what's the state's recommendation for a bond?
¿Cuál es la recomendación para una fianza de la Fiscalía?
Your Honor, state's recommendation is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial services.
La recomendación de la Fiscalía son una fianza de $1,500 bajo firma a través de los servicios previos al juicio.
No further contact with the victim, Mr. Adnan Uzlu.
Y no tener más contacto con la víctima Adnan Uzlu.
And to stay away from the incident address, which is 565 Main Street.
Y mantenerse alejado de la dirección, el lugar del incidente, que es 565 Main Street.
What city is that in?
¿En
It's
qué
in
ciudad? En Atlanta.
Okay. Mr. Trejo, any objection?
None,
¿Alguna
Your Honor.
objeción, señor Trejo? No, sí, señoría.
Ms. Rodriguez's bond is going to be $1,500. It's a signature bond. She will not have to pay for anything for it, but she will report to pretrial once a month.
Señor Rodríguez, su fianza será de $1,500 bajo firma o no monetaria. Usted no tendrá que pagar por ella, pero sí presentarse ante la oficina de los servicios previos al juicio una vez por mes.
She must make sure that her address is current with the court at all times.
Usted tiene que tener su dirección personal actualizada con el tribunal en todo momento.
Presently, I have a Northeast Expressway apartment N6. Is that correct?
N as in Nancy, Your Honor.
Northeast Expressway, N as in Nancy, yes.
Ahora tengo el domicilio de Northeast Expressway y el departamento N6. ¿Está correcto? I can, it's
You
muted.
have to unmute courtroom 2.
Lo que pasa es que yo tengo esa dirección porque apenas me moví, pero la dirección que siempre tengo la tengo por mi familia allí, pero yo me mantengo siempre todo el tiempo ahí porque apenas me moví.
I just moved there and
Yeah.
I spend most of the time with my family there. So that's why I have this street address because I spend most of the time there.
Does she receive her mail there?
Usted recibe su correspondencia ahí.
Sí, en la 2235 Bedford Court, ahí tengo todo y todo ahí, yo siempre me la paso ahí.
Perdón, 2235
Bedford Court.
Bedford, it's,
Bedford
yes,
Court,
at the
Bedford,
2235 at Bedford Court. That's where I receive my mail,
todo.
everything.
Within,
Porque como
within,
apenas me acabo de mover, entonces no la he movido porque no sé cómo voy a estar ahí.
I haven't, I just moved, so I still haven't made the changes because I don't know how I'm going to be now, from now on.
well, once she's released on a signature bond, she must report to pretrial services once a month.
Bueno, una vez que usted salga bajo la fianza bajo firma, tiene que presentarse a la oficina de servicios previos al juicio una vez al mes.
Okay.
If she gets arrested again, she'll be brought back to jail and she will have to pay for her bond the next time.
Si usted la arrestan de nuevo, va a tener que, va a regresar a la cárcel y en esa oportunidad usted va a tener que pagar por una fianza.
Okay.
Within 2 weeks of being released today, she must come back to the court and update us with her new address.
Tiene 2 semanas a partir de hoy o de cuanto salga para regresar ante el tribunal y traer la dirección correcta donde usted reciba su correspondencia correctamente.
Yo ya tengo mi correspondencia ahí mismo, no, o sea, lo que pasa es que no la ha movido la otra. Porque
I'm sorry.
yo ya he movido
She says that she can receive it right there.
todo lo recibo ya, pero
Pero ¿en cuál, señora? Which street address?
corto para donde tengo de la carta de la Tarabona.
Dígame la dirección, señor. Tell me the street address. Please.
2515 Northeast.
2515. So you receive there this.
Sí.
Yeah, she does receive the mail there, Your Honor.
Yeah.
All right. To stay away from 565 Main Street in Atlanta, Georgia, she has to stay 200 yards away from that location.
Usted tiene que mantenerse distanciada permanentemente del 565 Main Street. No puede estar más cerca de 200 yardas.
And stay 200 yards away and not communicate in any way with Adnan Uslu.
Tiene que mantenerse 200 yardas de distancia alejada y no tener ningún contacto alguno con Adnan Uslu.
Does she have any questions about her bond?
¿Quiere hacer alguna pregunta acerca de la fianza?
Solamente cuánto es lo que voy a pagar para decirle a mi familia y esto.
How much I'm going to pay so I can tell my family.
Today, she has a $1,500 signature bond. She does not have to pay for it, but if she violates the conditions of the bond, then the next time she'll be in jail and she'll need to pay for that.
Esta vez usted tiene una fianza de $1,500 bajo firma, no monetaria, no tiene que pagar, solo firmar, pero la próxima vez si la traen a la cárcel, usted tendrá que pagar por una fianza para salir. ¿Algo más?
This would be per judge.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I believe that concludes this case.
Creo que esto termina el caso.
All right. Mr. Trejo, Ms. Thomas, do you have any other clients who require the services of a Spanish interpreter?
No, Your Honor.
All right.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. McLeod, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to exclude you. Does your client need interpreter services?
Your Honor, I don't really have a client on today's
Okay.
on here.
Well, we always appreciate your presence. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Especially on Saturdays. So
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Chauncey, you have a wonderful holiday weekend.
You
So
too,
much.
Your Honor. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right. Courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Position number 2.
Okay. This is Trevor Burton, accused of criminal trespass from a September 1st, 2023 incident. Case number is 23 CR 5316D. Mr. Burton, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Thomas. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
93. He's a habitual trespasser at
Mhm.
Georgia Tech.
All right. Mr. Walker?
Yes, he also has a case in FTA status for criminal trespass. That's 19 CR 001781B. Law enforcement was dispatched to the Georgia Tech Hotel due to the defendant being on the property. The warrant stated that the defendant has been previously criminally trespassed from that location several times in the past. He was taken into custody. I showed the last conviction he had was for criminal trespass. That's 22 CR 00812Y. There currently is a $2,000 surety. We ask that they remain as set, and I stay away from Georgia Tech's campus.
All right, thank you. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Burton is 63 years of age. He expressed that he has been a Georgia resident for several months now. He does have family members residing in the state. However, he has not had the opportunity to get in contact with her. He did receive his high school diploma. Unfortunately, Mr. Burton is unemployed. I did speak with him to see if he would need the services of our social workers. However, he did decline. At this time, Your Honor, given we understand his criminal history, however, Mr. Burton does not have the financial means for any bond. I would be asking for a signature bond or a bond no more than $500 at this time. I did also speak to him about the allegation, Your Honor. He does express that he understands that he cannot go back to the location, and he understands that that warning is valid until 2026.
And Your Honor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if the defendant agrees to be referred to PAD, I will consent to a signature bond. If he agrees, I don't know if he will.
Well, I'm not sure how to authorize that right now, if subject to an evaluation being made and then him being submitted to PAD. So
We could do it through pretrial services and make that condition, and you can check in with pretrial.
No, that he's not recommended. He got 93. History is extensive. Come on, y'all.
$500 surety bond. Stay away from all of Georgia Tech. And Ms. Thomas, the next time you speak to your client, if this is a repeat incident, I may have him banned from Fulton County altogether.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. His next court date is going to be September 14th. And we will hear this case as well as 19 CR 001781B. Both cases will be addressed on September 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Honor, can I get that CR number again?
Sure.
19 CR 00.
1781B as in Bob.
Okay, B is in both. Okay.
Position number 3.
This is case 23 CR 5317F. This is a traffic-related matter against Marcus Carr, in which Mr. Carr has now been accused of following too closely and hit and run failure of the driver to return to the scene of the accident from a June 10th, 2022 incident. Mr. Carr, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Thomas. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
16 total. He got 4 arrests this year for forgery. I didn't see any driving arrests.
All right.
That's it.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe there's currently a $1,000 surety bond still on each count. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to Glenn and Humphrey Street. They spoke to the victim, who advised that she was at a stop sign when a Ford pickup truck ran to the back of her and then pulled off. She was able to obtain the license plate number. Upon investigation, law enforcement did reach out to the owner of that vehicle, who advised that he had gave his car to his mechanic to perform work on that car. He did identify the mechanic, and the victim did pick the defendant out by photo. I did review his driver's history, so I will be adding a charge. It looks like his license is actually suspended at this time. But with that being said, I ask that the court keep the $2,000 total surety bond that's currently been set, no driving without a valid license.
Was it suspended back in 2022 at the time of the
I believe it's been
incident?
suspended
or-
since 2020,
Oh,
according to the driver's history that I had due to child support.
okay. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carr is 50 years of age. He's the lifelong Georgia resident. All of his family resides here. He's a proud father of 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. He completed his GED. Mr. Carr is presently unemployed, Your Honor. He does not have the means to make any bond. He does strongly deny these allegations and express that he was not driving that vehicle. We are asking for a signature bond on both counts, Your Honor. And if the court is not inclined, we ask for a $500 bond on each.
Okay. On the driving too closely is 500. On the hit and run is 1,000. Total bond is 1,500. It is a surety bond. No driving unless he has a valid driver's license, adequate insurance, and proper registration. Next court date is September 14th. Thank you.
Yes.
Division 5.
The state versus Tony David Champ, 23 CR 5318G, in which Mr. Champ was accused of simple battery.
Hold on, Judge, this 4 or 5?
This is 4, I think.
The 5.
Oh, did I hear 5? Oh, sorry. Oh, okay.
Position 5.
5, I beg pardon. Is position 4 present as well?
Yes, he just finished interviewing.
I see. Okay, sorry about that. Position 5 is Isaiah Ferreira. Is that correct? Are you Mr. Ferreira? Okay. Your case number is 23 CR 5319Y, in which you are accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property from September 1st, 2023. Mr. Ferreira, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Thomas. Any priors on position 5, Mr. Howard?
This is second arrest. He was just arrested August 23rd for obstruction. That's open in state court, 23 CR 005 164Y. I'm not sure how he got out. I don't know if he bonded out or got a signature bond.
Okay, thank you.
I have to look it up.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, in this case, law enforcement was dispatched to Wood Creek Apartments located at 315 Wood Creek Court. They spoke to the office manager there, who advised that a particular apartment had been broken into. The officer did find the defendant in the back closet of a bedroom located in the apartment. The office manager advised that this door had just previously been fixed the day before. There currently is a $1,500 surety bond that has been set. We would ask that that bond remain as set and stay away from the incident location.
All right, thank you. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Ferreira is 22 years of age. He's a Georgia resident. He's been here for the past 3 years. He did complete high school, received his diploma. He was previously employed at Publix. However, he's unemployed today. Mr. Ferreira did express to me that he is currently homeless. He has been for about a year after he lost his job. I am going to be asking for a signature bond, Your Honor. He expressed he does not have any financial assistance from family nor friends. He's not going to be able to afford bonds. So I am asking for a signature bond or in the alternative, a $500 bond.
All right. He did receive a $1,000 signature bond through the jail on the August 23rd case. He received the bond on August 24th. And it appears that there was going to be a request for a social worker visit in that case. So I'm not sure if there has been any follow-up since then. In the present case, the one ending with 5319Y, his bond is going to be set at $1,000. It's a surety bond. To stay away from the entire Wood Creek Apartments. May I have a street address, please?
Yes, it is 315 Wood Creek Court.
315 Wood Creek. Okay, it's in Atlanta. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons or firearms. And his next court date will be September 14th. On September 14th, we'll address this new case as well as his prior case, 23 CR 005164Y. So both cases will be addressed that time if he's still with us. Otherwise, please make sure that he updates his address within 14 days of being released from jail. Thank you.
You said
Thank you.
1,000, correct?
1,000 surety, yes.
Position number 4.
Okay. Mr. Tony David Champ is charged with simple battery from a September 1st, 2023 incident, case number 23 CR 5318G. Mr. Champ, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Trejo. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
I'm gonna defer to the state. The file I have is incomplete.
All right. Mr. Walker, if you have any information.
He had one prior arrest in 95 for assault. That was in Maryland, I believe, and that was a dismissal. This is his first arrest in the state of Georgia. There currently is not a bond set on the simple battery. The state is requesting a $1,500 surety and no further contact with the victim. Is Shay, C-H-E, Champ. An off-duty officer was working the Roaring Social Club in Alpharetta. He observed Mr. Champ smacked the victim. At that time, law enforcement was called and Mr. Champ was taken into custody. Again, we are asking for that surety bond, no further contact with the victim.
Judge, he is a resident of Maryland, according to the booking sheet.
Okay. Mr. Trejo?
Thank you, Your Honor. So Mr. Champ is a resident of Northern Virginia. He's present in Georgia because he does have family here. He was visiting his brother, and he works in IT for a federal agency, and he does have security clearance for that position as well. And then when he is not doing that, he indicated that he does teach youth IT courses and computer skills. Given the fact that he has no relevant history to speak of, given the fact that his last incident was more than 20 years ago and resulted in a dismissal, we would ask for a signature bond on this case. We don't believe him to be a threat to the other party, who is his wife. He indicated that this was a misunderstanding and that she had been physical with him prior to the argument being observed by the off-duty officer. Mr. Champ has also indicated to me that he and his wife are still married and that they do reside together. We would ask that any no contact provisions be for no further violent contact, again, given the fact that there is no relevant history to speak of to indicate that he's a threat to her or that she feels threatened by him.
All right, Ms. Champ, you are on the Zoom. If you'd like to unmute and start your video, only if you want to contribute to this proceeding. Shay Champ, I believe you've got your audio connected now. I don't know whether she's got anything matter. Mr. Walker has Ms. Champ.
Yes, can you hear me?
We need to see you too. Please start your video.
I'm trying to start my video. Can you see me now?
Nope.
It's not allowing me to.
All right. If the host will please send a message to that participant to start video, that might trigger it. While we're trying to see Ms. Champ, Mr. Trejo, what do you mean by security clearance? Is he what we're talking about? Is he a federal got a federal contract, or is he allowed to have firearms? So what are we talking about?
Oh, I don't know about firearms, Your Honor. But he indicated that it's a security clearance position. So I think because his IT work does deal in handling sensitive information or sensitive data.
Okay, well, hope they don't find out about this arrest. Ms. Champ, any success?
No, I keep hitting start video and it's not allowing me to start the video.
All right, thank you. You may mute your screen. Okay, Mr. Champ, presently your bond is going to be set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through the jail, which means that you don't have to pay for your bond, but you will be released on the bond, and you will have to report to the Fulton County Court when summoned, which means that you have a responsibility for, if the host could please mute Mr. Champ, yeah, thank you. This means that you have a responsibility of making sure your address and your contact information are current with the Fulton County State Court. When we send you notice to appear in court, you must appear. I don't know by then whether you'll be required to appear in person, which means traveling back down to lovely Fulton County, or whether you'll be allowed to appear via Zoom or through any kind of, whatever virtual app we have by then. But in the meantime, you're to have no further violent contact with Shay Champ. You are not to possess any weapons or any firearms as a matter of law. And you are not to consume any illegal drugs. Mr. Champ, I also need to advise you that this is an open pending case involving a violent offense against you. So if you fail to appear in court, a bench warrant could be issued for your arrest, and our bench warrants go nationwide. So it'll be incumbent upon you to make sure that you do keep up with your court notices for this respective case. Until you get an order from the prosecutor that this case is dismissed, this will be an active and open case against you, even if no matter which state you reside. All right, this is all the warnings I can give you. I can't think of any other possible contingency in which you could possibly violate the bonds. All right, thank you. Next case, please.
Number 8.
State versus Jarvin Harlan, charged with battery, family violence from a June 20th, 2023 incident. The accusation number is 23 CR 5322H. Mr. Howard, any priors on Mr. Harlan?
Third arrest, 2019 out of Gwinnett, ag assault, possession of a firearm, dismissed. 2018 sale of marijuana, dismissed.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Harlan's counsel is going to be Mr. Trejo. Okay. Mr. Walker or Mr. Pellon, any recommendation for a bond for Mr. Harlan? Is that your case, Mr. Pellon?
No, Your Honor, I was pretty certain it was Mr. Walker's, but maybe I'm incorrect.
All right, let's check. Mr. Walker?
If I can have 1 second, Your Honor.
Sure.
He was recommended.
All right.
If defense doesn't mind going first, I'll take a look at it, if that's okay.
All right, Mr. Trejo, would you like
Absolutely.
to go
Yes,
ahead?
ma'am, I can start. Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, in this case, we would be asking for a signature bond in this one. Although he does have that felony charge out of Gwinnett, that case was dismissed by Gwinnett County. This was a situation where my client had his teeth knocked out in the same incident that resulted in this warrant. He indicated to me that he doesn't have any violent history, that he's got a couple of different jobs. He's an independent contractor for a logistics company. So whether that means that he is transporting items via trucks, or he's contracting with other folks to do so on behalf of this company that he owns. He indicated to me that he does have his associate's degree. He attended Georgia Military College. So he's an educated young man. He has based on my conversation with him, Your Honor, he understood the stakes of everything that's going on around him, and assured me that that he's not a violent person. That this is not somebody with real history to speak of. Again, understanding, of course, that he had some cases dismissed. He lives in his own home. He pays the rent. Like I mentioned earlier, Your Honor, he has 2 jobs. He's a stable individual. He does have some strong community ties. His family is here in Georgia. He actually indicated to me that some extended family members were also implicated in that felony out of Gwinnett, but he has cut ties with them.
Mhm.
Understanding that was a learning experience for him to be careful of who he associates with. He coaches football at middle school. He played football in college. So I really don't think that my client is a threat to the community, and we would ask for a signature bond in this case.
All right, thank you. Mr. Walker, we can proceed, or I can have Ms. Cobb testify if she wants to.
Your Honor, I apologize. This is my case. I totally whiffed that.
All right. Right. So I think then with that means I'll let Ms. Cobb testify first.
No, Your Honor. I do have notes prepared for the court. I
Oh, I'm ready.
totally messed up the position number. I'm
That's
very
okay.
sorry.
No problem.
Your Honor, in this matter, officers responded to a domestic call and met with the victim, who stated she was in an argument with the defendant, the father of her child. The defendant allegedly threw a milkshake inside of her car, threw shoes at the victim while the victim was in the car, leaving in the car with their child. The defendant then ran inside the victim's house and the victim followed her, where the defendant allegedly body slammed her multiple times. And officers did observe wounds consistent with her telling of the facts. My office was able to make contact with her. She stated that she will be on Zoom, which Your Honor has indicated she can see her. She stated that she confirmed the events in the warrant and stated that she would like to have contact. The state is concerned given the nature of the charges. We're asking for a $3,000 surety bond, no further contact, and a stay away from the incident location. It's my understanding they don't formally live there together, but that he does stay over often. So the state is concerned about reoffense and intimidation.
All right. Ms. Jamia Cobb, if you would like to contribute to these proceedings, you need to, okay. Ms. Cobb, did you want to contribute?
Yes, ma'am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
All right. Are you comfortable with Mr. Harlan being near you or having any contact with you or your child?
Yes, ma'am, I'm comfortable.
All right. And why is that?
We have no previous violent history. He's a great father. He comes over and helps a lot. So he's a big help on my end.
In what respect?
In what respect? Like Javen around. He's like helps with our kid. He helps provide, even with making meals and things. Like he's a big help around. He respects me. We've never had any physical altercations in the past, in the years of us knowing each other.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Pellin?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Trail?
No, Your Honor. Given her testimony, we would ask for no violent contact.
Bond is set at $3,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. No further violent contact with Jamia Cobb. However, he cannot reside at 925 Carter's Grove Trail. Is that at Johns Creek? He may visit, but he cannot spend the night or reside there. He's not to consume any alcohol, no illegal drugs, and not possess any weapons or any firearms. If Mr. Harlan owns any firearms, he has to surrender them to the authorities for destruction. He's to report to pretrial once a month. He cannot afford to be arrested again, otherwise he loses the signature bond. He is to make sure his address and contact information are current with the court at all times. Within 60 days of being released, he will enroll in a domestic violence intervention program at his expense. That means by his third visit to pretrial, he must report the school that he's attending to complete these classes and that he's attending them regularly per week. Thank you.
Judge, you said the address is what now?
He must maintain a current address with the court.
No.
But he cannot reside at 925 Carter's Grove, GROV Trail in Johns Creek, Georgia.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next case, please.
Number 10.
Your Honor, I think this one's going to need to be handled in a breakout room.
Okay. This is State versus Anthony Ortiz, case number 23 CR 5324A. Mr. Ortiz has been accused of battery from a September 1st, 2023 incident. Oh, Ms. Grace, could you put me and...
You want me to give you the history first before you go?
Okay.
This is fourth arrest. Last was in June, assault first, strangulation in the second, obstructing breath or blood circulation. This was out of Buffalo, New York. So that is open. He got an assault third degree as well. Says recklessly caused physical out of Erie County, New York.
Oh, okay.
And that's it.
Mr. Ortiz, your attorney is going to be Mr. Javier Trejo. And I want to remind you that you have a right to remain silent. So while you're waiting for us to address your case back in open court, your attorney has asked for a sidebar, which means a private conversation with the court. So please hold. No, please hold. Remain silent, and we'll be back with you shortly. Miss Grace, if you could place me, Mr. Trejo, and Mr. Pellon, and Mr. Walker in a breakout, please. All right. Returning back to the case with State versus Anthony Ortiz. Mr. Ortiz, you are charged with a battery offense stemming from a September 1st, 2023 incident at our Grady Hospital here in Fulton County, Georgia. You're represented by counsel, Mr. Javier Trejo, and your criminal record history has been relayed to the court by pretrial services as well as by the prosecution. Based on the information that we've received so far, your next court date is going to be September 21st at 11 a.m. Your bond is going to be set at $7,500. It's going to be a surety bond. You are to stay away from the Grady Hospital unless you have an appointment to see a specific healthcare provider, or you are seeking emergency treatment services. You're also to have no contact with the Grady staff member called Sinatra Edmond, and you are to have no violent contact with any of the staff members of the Grady Hospital system. Thank you. Next court date is September 21st at 11 a.m. And Mr. Trejo, you will submit the requested evaluation if your office deems it appropriate. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Your Honor.
Courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Number 11.
This is Shaquan Platts.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Case number is 23 CR 5325B. Mr. Platts, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Trejo. We have 7 misdemeanor offenses of which you've been accused, and they are as follows. You have 3 separate counts for cruelty in the 3rd degree, 3 separate counts for willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, and the 7th charge is battery, family violence. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Yes. 14 total. Last arrest was back in December, DeKalb County. I got ag assault, trespass. He got open trespass, 2 counts, death by taking, disorderly conduct, hindering emergency calls, simple battery, cruelty to children out of DeKalb. Got a 2017 probation, 2017 FTA, 2014 ag assault first offender, 2013 burglary, and 2013 simple battery DV. That's it.
Your Honor, in this matter, officers were responding to a domestic dispute and met with the victim outside of the apartment, who stated she'd been in an argument with the defendant and left the room to diffuse the situation. When she did that, the defendant entered the room where the victim was and their 3 minor children were located and began striking the victim. Officers noted the injury to victim's eyes, lips, and hands. They then went to the apartment to speak with the defendant. After officers knocked on the front door, the defendant appeared to jump off of the 3rd floor patio to avoid officers. Officers then pursued on the ground, and the defendant ran through a fence towards a Lowe's shopping area, and officers lost visual. 10 officers were used to locate the defendant, in which they found him in a drain pipe between Lowe's and a retirement community. The defendant spoke with officers and said he did not attack the victim. The altercation was not in front of the minor children, and in fact, the victim attacked him. He was taken to the hospital to be medically cleared and is present before Your Honor now. The state is asking for a $9,500 surety bond. Your Honor, that we're asking for a $1,000 surety bond on each cruelty charge, $500 on each obstruction charge, and then $5,000 on the battery family violence charge. We're also asking for no further contact with the victim and a stay away from the incident address. I would like to sound for Miss Verma Gentry.
I don't think I saw her. Miss Gentry, Verma Gentry. All right, Mr. Trejo.
Yes, Your Honor. My client has 3 minor children, which we've heard about already. He's been in Atlanta for more than 20 years. He has family here. He's gainfully employed. And the apartment where this incident occurred is his apartment. Your Honor, according to the warrant for arrest in this case, both parties did have injuries to them. There is some language in there about Miss Gentry having started an argument between the 2 of them. We would ask that my client have a surety bond of no more than $5,000 on all charges.
I can't recall whether the warrant said they were both living there, or whether.
It's not explicit, Your Honor. It appears that they're both living there. It's not explicit. State would maintain its request.
What? On the each charge of the cruelty and each charge of willful obstruction is going to be 500 each. So that will be a total of 3,000, and that's a surety bond. The battery family violence is going to be a $4,000 surety bond. The total bond is going to be set at 7,000 surety. No further contact with Miss Verma Gentry, V-E-R-M-A, Gentry with a G, G-E-N-T-R-Y. He's to stay away from 300 Carpenter Drive in Northeast Atlanta. He's allowed a one-time visit to that location with a police officer. At that visit, the officer has to verify that Miss Gentry does not reside at the property. And if she doesn't, then he may return to that location. So in other words, he has to stay away from that location unless it's verified that she does not reside there. He is to have no further contact with Verma Gentry and with the 3 minor children in question. If he seeks to have visitation or custody with the children he shares with Ms. Gentry, he will obtain a legitimation court order from Superior Court, which will set forth his visitation and custody rights. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And his next court date is going to be September 14th. Thank you.
Number 13 is next.
This is State versus Malik Aquavius Saspras, and he's accused of battery family violence from September 1st, 2023. The accusation number is 23CR5327M. Mr. Saspras, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Javier Trejo. And Mr. Howard?
First, he was recommended.
Okay. Ms. Bellin?
Your Honor, in this matter, officers responded to a domestic and met with the victim, who stated she'd been in an altercation with the defendant, her live-in boyfriend, and the father of their children. The victim did have a bite mark on her arm and scratches to her neck. Defendant had a small cut on his left pinky finger. 2 witnesses were present, and they both stated that the defendant was the primary aggressor. So we're asking for a $3,000 surety bond. No further contact with the victim, Miss Alicia Rucker, and a stay away from the incident location. We were not able to contact Ms. Rucker, but I would like to sound for her.
All right, Ms. Rucker? Mr. Trejo?
Yes, Your Honor. We would ask for a signature bond on this case. My client is unemployed. He indicated that he doesn't have any issues with the stay away order or no further contact provision in this case. That he had been staying at that at the 2909 Campbellton address, but he has no interest in staying there or in staying with the other party. Our concern in giving him a surety bond in this case, Your Honor, is that he has concerns over homelessness. He indicated that he has very little family in Georgia, even though he is from here, and he does receive regular hospitalization treatment for sickle cell. So he does have some health concerns as well, Your Honor. And so given that and given his financial situation, we would ask for a signature bond on this case.
So he wants a signature bond so that he can spend the funds on housing and stay away from Campbellton Road. Is that the argument, Mr. Trejo?
That's right, Your Honor.
And he's current, but you said he's unemployed at the present time.
Yes, Your Honor. He indicated that he's trying to find work, but at the present moment, he's not employed.
All right. Bond is going to be set at $5,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services per judge. No further contact with.
He was recommended, Judge.
Oh, okay. Thank you. No further contact with Alicia Rucker, which means he has to stay 200 yards away from her, not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. He is to stay away also from 2909 Campbellton Road in Southwest Atlanta. He may return to that location one time only with a police officer to retrieve his belongings, and that visit cannot exceed 1 hour. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and firearms. He will report to pretrial once a month, and within 60 days from today, he is to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program at his expense. And so by the third visit with pretrial, he must report to pretrial that he's enrolled in such a program and that he will be attending those weekly classes at his expense. So, Mr. Sassafras, it would be very encouraging if you get employment and separate housing so that you can begin on your classes, and make sure that you stay very far away from Ms. Rucker and the location in question. Within 30 days of being released, you are to report to the court with your new address. Yes, Mr. Sassafras?
No, because I was gonna ask about that, like staying away from the mother of my child, like it's still the mother of my child. And
Are you married to her?
no, I'm not married, but I was
And you want to stay away from her?
I was just asking, but I was gonna say she don't feel like I'm gonna hurt her or anything. Just
She's not on Zoom to tell me that. All right. And Mr. Sassafras, I'm very, very serious. If you have any contact with Ms. Rucker, even though she encourages it, and the law enforcement finds out, or the prosecution, they can ask for your signature bond to be canceled and you to be back in jail. Make sure that you show proof that you are enrolled in the domestic violence classes and that you update the court with your new address. The new address must be provided within 30 days of being released. Thank you.
Position number 14 and 15, Mr. Smith.
This is State versus Samuel Smith. Mr. Smith, you have 2 cases with us. I just first want to remind you that you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Trejo. Your first case, position 14, is case number 23 CR 5328G, in which you've been accused of battery, family violence from a March 26, 2023 incident. In the second case is the 23 CR 5329G, in which you've been accused of simple battery against a police officer, and that is from a September 1st, 2023 incident. Mr. Howard?
26 total. Last arrest was 2020 for DUI. 2011 battery, cruelty to children, dismissed. I saw the dismissal for the cruelty. I'm not sure about the battery. But the only violent convictions I saw was in the 1990s. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Pellet?
Your Honor, if it pleases the court, I'll go through the facts for both and
Okay.
then recommendation both. So in the first matter involving the battery family violence charge, officers responded to a domestic call. The caller stated that her neighbor came over banging on her window asking for help because her husband was beating her. When the officers arrived, the victim stated that the defendant had punched her repeatedly throughout the home. Officers were able to observe extensive bruising, including injuries to areas that the victim did not feel comfortable documenting. The defendant fled the scene before officer arrival. The later charge comes from when an officer picked up the defendant at Grady Hospital. And when officer was effecting the arrest, the defendant spit in the officer's face. Your Honor, in this matter, the battery family violence does not currently have a bond set. I showed that the simple battery against a law enforcement officer has a $2,500 surety bond. The state's requesting a $4,000 surety bond on the family violence charge, a $1,000 surety bond on the simple battery charge. It also asks for no further contact with the victim, Ms. Patricia Smith, and a stay away from the first incident location, which is 406 St. John's Avenue Southwest, Atlanta.
Mr. Trejo?
Yes, Your Honor. We would ask for a signature bond in this case, given that my client is currently unemployed. He's been unemployed for about 7 months. He indicated that that he has 5 daughters, 2 of whom still live in the home with them. and that his wife is a seasonal worker, and she receives welfare benefits of some variety. He indicated to me that he's lived in Georgia and he's lived in this house for over 20 years. That he does do community work through his church, which is a congregation called Elizabeth Church. And at this point, Your Honor, our main concern is just the financial implications of him not being able to make bond. We would ask also for no further violent contact given his limited history and that he has no violent history more recently than the 1990s.
Okay.
Your Honor,
yes,
I'll note for the court, I didn't see a disposition, but I did see a 2011 battery family violence arrest.
on the battery family violence from March of 2023, the bond's going to be set at $2,000 surety bond. On the recent simple battery against a police officer, that's going to be a $500 surety bond. Total bond is going to be $2,500. It is a surety bond. No further contact with Patricia Smith, and to stay away from 406 St. John's Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. He may return to that location one time only with a police officer to retrieve his personal belongings, but then he must update the court with his new address within 30 days of being released. With regards to the simple battery against the officer, he is to have no violent contact with law enforcement personnel. And also for both cases, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons, and no firearms. His next court date is going to be September 14th. Thank you.
Number 16 is next.
This is State versus Jonathan Williams, accused of simple battery domestic violence from April 28th, 2023. Mr. Williams, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Trejo. Mr. Howard, any priors?
No, recommend.
All right. Mr. Peller?
Your Honor, in this matter, officers responded to a domestic call. The victim stated the defendant was moving out, and the defendant put his hands on the victim's neck and squeezed, restricting her airflow. Our office did contact the victim. She stated she might be on Zoom today. She also stated that they share a 7-month-old son, and she confirmed the events in the warrant. Your Honor, we're asking for a $2,000 surety bond. No further contact with the victim. Ms. Brandy Robertson, to stay away from the incident location.
I don't have a Brandy Robertson. Oh, there she is. Okay. Ms. Robertson, if you want to contribute to the proceedings, you may unmute and start your video.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Would you like to say something about this case?
No, just that, you know, we do share a
No,
son.
just
so-
that means you're going to say something.
Yes.
Please raise your
So
right hand.
we,
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
yes.
All right. At the time of the alleged incident, did you feel that you were unable to breathe or?
No.
Okay. And what would you like to tell us?
So we do share a son, and I, you know, the call that I had before court today, they asked that we have somebody help transfer our son when, you know, he gets him and when I get him. So I asked that we don't need to do that. We are fine as far as, you know, transferring and sharing custody of our son.
All right. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay. Mr. Trail?
Yes, Your Honor. We would ask for, in light of Ms. Robertson's testimony, we would ask for no further violent contact so that Mr. Williams can continue to take care of his son. Regarding a stay away order, Your Honor, you know, my client indicated that they live in the same apartment complex, although they are in different buildings of the same complex. So we ask that the court take that into account when determining any stay away order, that if the court is inclined to impose one, that it be tailored in that fashion. Otherwise, he indicated that he's completed some college, that he's lived in Atlanta for a number of years, for 5 years, that he's gainfully employed by UPS. He makes a consistent paycheck, and that he does provide for his son.
I have a 470 Onyx Court. Is that a different building in the same complex?
Your Honor, I show the incident location is 3699 Lennox Road Northeast.
Yes.
That's what I was showing as well.
But Mr. Williams' address on the arrest ticket says Onyx Court. Although on the booking statement, he's got the 3699 Lennox Road. So which address is correct?
3699. I gotta update my driver's license. That's all.
Miss Robertson, does he live in the same building with you?
It's a different building. It's across from my building.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Bond is going to be set at 3,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. No further contact with Miss Brandy Robertson. He's to stay 200 yards away from Miss Robertson and not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. His custody and visitation of the minor child that he shares with Miss Robertson will be established by Superior Court. He needs to file a legitimation action with the Superior Court of Fulton County, and then the Superior Court will establish a by-court order, the visitation and the custody schedule, in which he can share with regards to the minor child in question. And Superior Court will then establish whether the transfer, the visitation will be executed by a third party, or whether he will allow Ms. Robertson and Mr. Williams to allow the transfer of the child in person. Of course, Ms. Robertson, you will let Superior Court know presently that he has no further contact with respect to you. He's to stay away from the apartment building in which Ms. Robertson occupies. So if he sees her outside or anywhere in the vicinity, he has to turn around and move away. He's not allowed to communicate with her in person, through a phone, a computer, through a third party, or even on social media. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. He's also to enroll in a domestic violence program within 60 days of being released from jail. And he will show proof of that enrollment to pretrial services, which he has to report once a month. Any questions, Mr. Williams? All right. Mr. Trejo? Oh, okay, you have a question? Yes, sir.
Pretrial.
Yeah, it's a signature bond through pretrial. You report to pretrial once a month. If you fail to report, if you violate any of the conditions of the bond, or if you get arrested again, your signature bond will be revoked and converted to a cash bond or a surety bond. Right, and as I've indicated, your visitation with your minor child will have to be established through a legitimation action. You can speak to a family law attorney on how to proceed with that, or you can go to the self-help department on the 7th floor of the Fulton County Courthouse. Thank you.
Judge, you get that waiver I sent?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but courtroom 2, have we addressed all the cases? I think that's a yes.
Yeah, I don't have nothing else.
All right, Mr. Howard, I'll send you the waiver within the next 5 minutes, promise. All right, courtroom 2, I think we are done. So wish you the best, and see you all next week. Enjoy the weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, position number 1, Jamonte Aiken was a $3,000 surety bond, reset date September 14th. Position 2, Burton is a $500 surety, reset September 14th, along with this other outstanding case. Position 3, Marcus Carr is a $1,500 surety, reset September 14th. Position 4, Champ is a $3,000 signature bond through the jail. Miss Grace, I forgot to mention, he has to stay away from the Roaring Social bar in Alpharetta, Georgia. And then position 5, Isaiah Ferreira is a
say that again for me, Judge, for position 4.
Yeah. Tony Champ.
Yes, you have the address.
Oh boy. Like I know where it is, but I don't know the address.
I can get it, no problem.
Okay, sorry about that. I just know it's in Alpharetta. Okay. Position 5, Ferrera is $1,000 surety bond, reset September 14. 6 and 7, Mr. Hodrick. Position 6 is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial. Position 7, a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial. Position 8, Harlan is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial. 9, McNeil's a 10,000 signature bond through pretrial with a co-signer that I have to submit the waiver to Mr. Howard very soon. Position 10, Ortiz is a 7,500 surety, reset September 21st at 11 a.m. Position 11 is a $7,000 surety bond, reset September 14th. Position 12, Rodriguez is a 1,500 signature bond through pretrial. 13, Sassafras is a 5,000 signature bond through pretrial.
Was that no contact?
On which one?
Sassafras.
Sassafras, I believe it was, oh, I can't remember now.
Don't worry about it. Keep going.
That was Patricia Smith. It was no contact with Patricia Smith.
Okay.
With Alicia Rucker for number Sapphires 13, is that
Yes, that's what I was asking for.
Alicia Rucker?
Okay, Patricia Smith is position 15.
Okay.
Right. My record, and Mr. Trejo can correct me if I'm wrong. My recollection was that it was a no contact with Alicia Rucker and that defendant did not contest that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't read my own writing right now. So okay, position 14 was Samuel Smith, and that was a $2,000 surety bond, reset September 14. And for position 15, same defendant, that was a $500 surety bond. Was that 500 or 1,000?
I asked for 1,000, you granted 500.
Okay, and that's also reset to September 14th. And position 16, Williams is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial. All right, Ms. Grace, any questions about the information?
Yes, I just have one question on position 16 with the stay away due to them staying in the same complex. How do you want me to put, I got stay away 3699 Lenox Road, Northeast.
I honestly, I don't know how that addresses break down, so that's why I said stay away from the building in which the victim lives.
That's what I will put.
Okay.
Thank you.
Which
He
is also
indicated that he indicated the building that she stays in is the P21 building. So whether that's distinguished on the mailing address or not, that's what he told me.
So I'll put stay away from the building P21.
at 3699 Lenox Road in Atlanta.
That's right.
All right, folks, I'm sure you're all off to a good start for this long weekend. So, Ms. McLeod, and we can